Blood. That's the first thing I saw when I walked into my apartment after working a 16-hour shift as a single dad just trying to survive. My 6-year-old daughter Lily was gone. Her bedroom window was shattered. And on my kitchen table sat a single white envelope with the Blackwood family crest, the same billionaire family that had destroyed my life 6 months earlier over a stupid parking violation. Inside that envelope was a photo of Lily tied to a chair and a note that made my blood freeze. "You cost us everything, now we're taking everything from you." But here's what those rich psychopaths didn't know: I wasn't just some broken janitor they could mess with anymore, and what I was about to do to get my daughter back would make them wish they'd never learned my name. Let me back up and tell you how this nightmare started. 6 months ago, I was Jack Martinez, a single dad working 3 cleaning jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. Lily was my entire world, this bright, funny little girl who made paper airplanes out of my bills and told me jokes while I folded laundry at midnight. That Tuesday morning started like any other. I dropped Lily off at school, kissed her goodbye, and headed to my first job cleaning the luxury Blackwood Tower downtown. "You can't park that piece of junk here," the security guard Marcus said, pointing at my beat-up Honda Civic. "This is private property for residents only." "Sir, I'm just doing my job," I said calmly. "I'll be gone in 20 minutes. The guard stepped closer, his hand moving to his radio. "I don't care what your job is. Move it now or I'll have it towed." That's when she appeared. Victoria Blackwood herself. 50-something, dripping in diamonds that probably cost more than I'd make in 10 years, walking a tiny white dog that wore a diamond collar. "What's the problem here, Marcus?" she asked in that cold, entitled voice that rich people perfect. "This man refuses to move his vehicle, Mrs. Blackwood." I'd heard whispers about Victoria Blackwood around the building. Her family owned half the city's real estate empire. They were worth billions and treated everyone else like insects. She looked at me like I was something disgusting she'd stepped in. "You people need to learn your place," she said with ice in her voice. "This building has standards." "Ma'am, I'm just trying to make a living," I said, keeping my voice respectful even though my blood was starting to boil. She laughed. A sound like breaking glass. "Making a living? You call this living?" She gestured at my uniform, my beat-up car, me. "You're nothing but gutter trash, and gutter trash doesn't park in front of my building." My face burned with shame and rage, but I had bills to pay and Lily waiting for me at home. I moved my car without another word. But Victoria Blackwood wasn't done destroying my life. Not even close. 2 weeks later, I was cleaning the lobby when I overheard her on the phone. "Yes, I want that disgusting man banned from this building permanently. The one with the pathetic car. Find some excuse to fire him, I don't care what it is." My stomach dropped. This job paid me $900 a month, money I desperately needed for Lily's medication. She had asthma, and her inhaler cost $200 every month. The next day, my supervisor called. "Jack, I'm sorry, but we're letting you go. The Blackwood family filed a complaint about your work quality." "But I never even cleaned their floor," I protested. "Doesn't matter. When the Blackwoods want someone gone, they're gone. That's how it works." I stared at my phone after he hung up. Victoria Blackwood had just cost me a job because she didn't like where I parked. Because she thought I was beneath her. Because she could. That night, I tucked Lily into bed and tried to hide my panic. "Daddy, why do you look scared?" she asked with those big brown eyes that saw everything. "Just tired, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay." But nothing was okay. Without that job, I couldn't make rent. I spent the next week frantically looking for work, but $900 a month was impossible to replace quickly. On Friday, our landlord knocked. "Jack, I hate to do this, but you're 3 weeks behind on rent. You have until Monday to pay or you're out. Please, I need more time. I lost my job but I'm looking for another one." He shook his head. "I'm sorry, man. I got bills too." That weekend, I packed our entire life into garbage bags. Lily watched me with confused eyes as I dismantled her small world. "Where are we going, Daddy?" "To stay with Uncle Mike for a while," I lied, trying to sound cheerful about moving into my friend's freezing garage. Mike's garage smelled like motor oil and had no heat. Within 2 weeks, Lily's asthma got worse. Her coughing kept me awake all night, and I couldn't afford her medication anymore. "Mr. Martinez," the doctor said, "without her inhaler, your daughter could have a life-threatening attack." I left the pharmacy empty-handed, watching other parents buy medicine I couldn't afford. That night, I held Lily as she struggled to breathe and made a promise. Victoria Blackwood was going to pay for what she'd done to us. I started working overtime at the warehouse job I'd finally found. Double shifts, weekends, anything to save money for an apartment. But every night, I researched the Blackwood family online. That's when I discovered something interesting. Victoria's son Richard was getting married to the mayor's daughter. A massive society wedding that was supposed to be the event of the year. I dug deeper. Social media posts, wedding planning websites, vendor lists. I found everything: the venue, the date, the guest list. And I found their weakness. The wedding photographer they'd hired had terrible reviews buried deep online. Complaints about showing up drunk, missing important shots, delivering photos months late. I made a phone call pretending to be Victoria's assistant and canceled their photographer. Then I sat back and waited for their perfect day to fall apart. The wedding was a disaster. No photographer, chaos, tears, and 300 of the city's elite watching the Blackwood family humiliate themselves on social media. But that was just the beginning. Over the next 4 months, I systematically destroyed everything they'd built. I exposed their tax evasion schemes, their discriminatory business practices, their history of destroying working families like mine. I sent detailed reports to journalists, the IRS, and federal investigators. Their restaurant empire collapsed. Their real estate business crumbled under lawsuits and investigations. Victoria Blackwood was arrested for tax fraud on live television. 2 weeks ago, I drove past their old building and saw Victoria sitting on the steps, homeless and broken, holding a cardboard sign begging for work. I should have felt satisfied. Justice served. Victory achieved. Instead, I felt empty. Destroying them hadn't brought Lily's health back. It hadn't given us those lost months in the garage. It hadn't healed the damage they'd done to our lives. So I decided to move on. I took the insurance settlement from my lawsuit against them and started fresh in a new city. Better apartment, better schools for Lily, better life. That was my mistake. I thought it was over. But the Blackwoods weren't finished with me. Which brings me back to that blood on my apartment floor and the ransom note on my kitchen table. I called the number written on the note with shaking hands. "Hello, Jack." Victoria's voice was different now. "Desperate. Dangerous. You destroyed my family. You took everything from us. Now I'm taking everything from you. Where is my daughter?" "Safe. For now. But if you want to see her again, you're going to undo everything you did to us. You're going to recant your testimony, withdraw your lawsuits, and tell the world you lied about everything. You're insane. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. By the time they find us, your precious little girl will be gone forever. You have 24 hours to decide what matters more, your revenge or your daughter's life." The line went dead. I stared at the photo of Lily tied to that chair, tears streaming down my face. She looked terrified but unhurt. For now. But here's what Victoria Blackwood didn't know about me. Before I was a janitor, before I was a single dad struggling to survive, I was a staff sergeant in the Army Rangers. I'd tracked down terrorists in Afghanistan and rescued hostages in Iraq. And I'd never lost anyone I was sent to bring home. I opened my closet and pulled out a box I hadn't touched in 5 years. Inside were items from my military days, night vision goggles, tactical gear, and skills that never really go away. Victoria Blackwood wanted to play a game where she held all the cards. But she'd just declared war on someone who knew how to win wars. I spent the next 12 hours tracking down every property the Blackwood family had ever owned. Abandoned warehouses, foreclosed buildings, remote cabins. They were broke now, but they still had access to places where they could hide a kidnapped child. Using my old military contacts, I accessed satellite imagery and traffic cameras. I traced Victoria's movements over the past week using credit card transactions and cell phone pings. At 2 a.m., I found her. An abandoned Blackwood warehouse on the outskirts of the city. 2 heat signatures on the thermal imaging, 1 adult, 1 child. I'd found my daughter. But I wasn't going in like some desperate father begging for mercy. I was going in like the trained soldier I used to be. I cut the power to the building first. Then the phone lines. Then I used smoke grenades to create confusion while I moved through the building like a ghost. Victoria was in the main warehouse space, pacing back and forth with a gun in her shaking hands. Lily was tied to a chair 20 feet away, her eyes wide with fear but alive and unhurt. "Hello, Victoria," I said, stepping out of the shadows with my rifle trained on her heart. She spun around, her face pale with terror. "How did you find us?" "I'm very good at finding people. Now put the gun down and step away from my daughter." "No!" she screamed, her voice echoing through the empty warehouse. "You destroyed my family. You ruined everything. Your family destroyed itself. I just exposed the truth. You were nobody. A janitor. You had no right to bring us down. I had every right to protect my child from people like you." That's when Victoria made her fatal mistake. She turned the gun toward Lily. She doesn't deserve to grow up in a world where people like you can destroy people like us. I didn't hesitate. One shot. Center mass. Victoria Blackwood dropped to the ground, the gun sliding across the concrete floor. I ran to Lily and cut her restraints, pulling her into my arms as she sobbed against my chest. Daddy, I was so scared. I know, baby. But you're safe now.